Hey everybody, welcome back to UR Free TV. It is Monday, June 1st, 2026. I am so glad to be back here on the beginning of the month. So much intense stuff going on. I'll just jump in first with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. I'm keeping it short today. It doesn't bully, harass anyone either in the disclaimers below. So thanks so much for being back on UR Free TV. I want to say thank you to everyone supporting monthly. So appreciate you. And also I want to say congratulations to Krista and Juliet, because on the first of every month I get to do my giveaway of the C60 Evo capsules to two different people who support the channel. It is Krista and Juliet this month. And it is going out to them in email, and I'm always so happy. These capsules are amazing. I love them. They've been kind of the bulwark of this sponsorship here by c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Or anybody who ever donates to the channel gets 15% off with a different code and link sent to you. I've been huge on the MCT oil since I've been dealing with the Lyme alpha gal stuff, and it's been enormously helping me with its antifungal and microbial activity. It's a great way to get the C60 Evo into me with the MCT oil. And of course, you can get just the liquids of the olive oil, mega awesome bottle here. Check it out on the page below, and you will love what you get. But congratulations to Krista and Juliet. So glad, and thank you for supporting the channel. Okay, so here we are. It is another amazing day here in the Republic as we're fighting this massive Hydra of all of the tyranny of the world's cartel Babylon trying to destroy America. And we have, of course, the Trump team trying to mitigate, fight Hydras left and right. And so we're looking at today coming out with the NDAA, all the information over the weekend that leaked out about, I think it's page 872 of this Israel merger with our Pentagon. We know that Mossad, et cetera, has been massively living inside of our Pentagon for, since 9/11, but hugely, massively. And this, all of the turning away from supporting AIPAC, supporting Israel, just went undercover here, where, we're not going to send them money. We're just going to literally commit treason and align our Department of War, our Pentagon, everything from weapons to systems to AI to surveillance to everything, to align and incorporate Israel into our Department of War and our Pentagon. And that brings in FASB 57, the black books, all of the at least 15 trillion, probably much more, that disappeared in all of the destruction of America over the last 30 years. And we're seeing this situation where now we are fighting this Hydra of the call coming from in the House very blatantly. And there comes a time in this plan of Cartel Babylon where it was always, when we get strong enough and we can't hide anymore after committing the terrorism, violence, and deception being the #1 tool of the devil, to basically, capture the hearts and minds of humans. Well, then when it becomes impossible to hide anymore, we go full bore out in the open. And so this is what we're seeing. It is very disturbing. We're going to talk about it. And this is a multi-Hydra war here. This is a multi-Hydra situation because we have the City of London. If you look at Richie Does Politics, great channel, which I've been following for quite a while, but don't talk about much. Forbidden Knowledge TV does a great job always bringing in their information. But what we have here is, these City of London acolytes, the people who are very basically, whether it's the former colonies of India and the situation of this Indian invasion that is so massive as well. and absolutely part of the Hydra takeover of the United States and the West. Of course, look at the UK and Ireland, where you get the Hindu or the Indian mass immigration into the West, and they get into the corporate structure, right? There's not a corporation, especially in the tech world, where you don't have Indians at the head, at the helm. And this gets into CERN, right? And why they have the Shiva, the destroying Shiva, dancing Shiva statue in CERN, where it gets into what is now becoming, of course, to take over our biology, to connect us to this quantum computing system that they're trying for under our dollar. They need our money, our energy to make it happen, because they don't have the wherewithal yet to do it, but they need our money to make it happen. And so it's not only the corporate class when it comes to the Indian invasion in the United States, it is also, of course, the merchant class, right? And the takeover of all of our gas stations, hotels, etc. And this, when these takeovers happen, of course, there is the unspoken rule that the Indians only hire other Indians, and Americans don't get hired, and not only white Americans, but also all Americans. And it becomes this, of course, nepotism that goes on there. And as we look at what's going on with, what certain Christian prophecies are said about the great white wolf that is J.D. Vance, his wife's mother is the sister of Vivek Ramaswamy's wife's mother. And the situation where we keep seeing all this fraud uncovered. We had RFK Jr. today coming out and saying, oh, the biggest bust on autism fraud yet. But all of this fraud that we're seeing being uncovered is all coming out of the healthcare industry, right? Because they need the cryptobiology. They need to attach us to, because of all the fraud, we have to all be biometrically connected to the healthcare system, which is the rollout of then the cryptobiology system of the mark of the beast payment system, where you can only buy and sell with of course the us as batteries crypto biology CBDC. And even with RFK Jr. with his, I like this idea of, that we give pushes through your texts, that you get pushes, nudges, to basically do healthy things for yourself, and all of this baloney around using smart systems to try to force us into how they think we should behave. And that this is like, no, just stay out of my biology, stay out of my my health entirely. And basically, if you want to do something, how about we promote all the healthy supplementation that we need in the organic farming, and the stopping of the geoengineering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Harper race systems, of course, destroying the planet with the geoengineering. And the pelting UK and Ireland with massive Harper ray and geoengineering for almost this entire year, as things are getting hugely reaching a boiling point in those countries. And we're seeing just massive takeovers. Again, when I talk about the three-headed Hydra, and we talk about they need to use the Muslim invasion force as the strong arming and the terrorization force. When you look in UK, they have something like 30 mayors. They have like about 4 million Muslims now in the UK, compared to 66 million British natives, and they occupy the mayorships, okay, of the most important cities, London, Birmingham now, and on and on and on from there. Completely disproportionate, completely a planned takeover of powers of positions of power. And the same thing here in the USA with the C40 mayors, and it's C40 mayors across the world. This, of course, we're looking at Forum, what's been planned for decades with using the mayorships, okay, to then tackle and decimate the local governments. And our local governments is what we're talking about, and why our action is so important. And before I go on, I just want to mention that Tina Peters, thank goodness, free today. She is out of prison, still on parole, something like 3 years of ridiculous parole, which she'll be fighting. And just as, you know, she might be the number one person who should be getting the weaponization, you know, fund recipient there to fight these the legal battles that she has to endure, and just the decimation of what's happened to her over these last 606 days that she was in prison, of course, for recording the as was her duty as the county clerk in Mesa County, recording the machine activity that happened there with the DOMINON, et cetera, machines there in Mesa County, Colorado, where we had Jared Polis now give her clemency instead of a pardon. And yet they're going full bore against him. But Jenna Greenwald, the Secretary of State, the DA, and the district attorney, the district judge, all now being full bore. There's Article 3 project going to try to get them indicted for their behavior. So there's a lot going on. But as this is happening, now I'm hearing that perhaps Trump is removing this this push to get that weaponization fund passed through Senate, our feckless, disgusting, awful, treasonous Senate, super funded by Larry Ellison of Oracle. Great heavy lifting by Promethean Action today, putting out this report about how Larry Ellison, very dubious past, can't really trace where he came from, out of San Francisco, with, of course, his daughter was involved with Bankman-Fried, to do with the FTX, massive money laundering scale operation in the Bahamas, where they were having orgies, according to his daughter. In the Bahamas. Okay, this is Epstein territory. And FTX very connected with Tether and all the massive money laundering that went on through the Biden invasion auto pen regime and mass looting of this country. And so, and then we have his son now is the CEO of CBS, right, with Barry Weiss and the firing of what's going on in 60 Minutes. And we'll probably have like an interview with Netanyahu coming up next week or something. And so all of this going on, Larry Ellison funding Thune, funding the Republican National Campaign massively when it comes to them doing the bidding of the Hydra. And we're seeing that Larry Ellison, huge funder of the beginning of what was the Blair, okay, the Blair, Tony Blair Foundation that now has been trying to ingratiate itself with Trump, becoming in charge, I believe, of the reconstruction of the Build Back Babylon Better Gaza after the genocide there. And Blair's son is, of course, in charge of, I believe, the crypto rollout of for the same exact stuff in the UK, right? And so you just see how it comes through the generations, and it's always been the protocol of that, you know, you have to get the children involved young. And as we're seeing this, you know, roll out with all this information coming out about the huge ritual abuse networks going on in Israel, especially in these settlement areas through the West Bank. And of course, now they're pushing settlement areas into Lebanon. We had Trump come out today and say that, you know, he's stopping Israel from going in and, you know, bombing the crap and killing, you know, the Lebanese and sending troops to Beirut, and that he is claimed to have stopped that. But again, this all happening at the time of the Iran negotiations, and the constancy of this repetition of the IDF going and creating mayhem while negotiations are happening out of the Trump team. Okay, and so it is a ongoing lying deception show that we're witnessing here, as Israel is now trying to merge with, in an absolute act of treason and war, are in our country to merge into our Pentagon. And the deep state involved in it must absolutely face military tribunals immediately because it's absolutely criminal. And so let's just go on from there, shall we? Might take a sip of water after that little diatribe, but I will say this, the first thing Tina Peters said coming out of prison after a short while of talking about her health and how awful it's been in prison, immediately the only thing on her mind is, hello, SAVE Act, and by the way, the machines are still in place. We're totally screwed. Like, this is the big fight, is what she's saying. I'm here, and this is the fight still, is getting the machines out, or else we cannot determine any elections. We have no secure election system. And of course, the SAVE Act being totally, after our Senate was gone, they worked 12 days in May. Now they're back. Feel free to call in and harangue them. 202-224-3121 for your senator, and 202-224-2321 for Thune, and billblastersapp.org, etc. But you basically want to say SAVE Act immediately, and we're going to stop this NDAA fusion with Israel in a treasonous attempt to literally overthrow our government by inviting a foreign power into our military. It is so disturbing because it literally covers everything. That is the rollout of AI, surveillance, all technologies that are developed. Of course, this having to do with all of Israeli massive, huge technology development that they have. They've already, backdoored way back in Ghislaine Maxwell's sister backdooring way back when the software that was at Sandia National Laboratory and Los Alamos, etc. It's just, this is the modern version on steroids, okay, as they want to activate this beast system they've already gotten into our bodies through the geoengineering and spray and the jabs and the shed and et cetera, et cetera. This is already in the works, and it is, when the economic aspect of it is rolled out in the capture of our biometrics being connected to it, largely being done through the healthcare system, that they're ginning up this, where they're going to say, yeah, because of all the fraud, we must all, submit our DNA connection to our healthcare system. Yeah, good luck with that. And we all must fight it enormously, enormously. And of course, that's what is why we were born for this time. It is why at America 250, AMREV 250.0, that we must stand up against this and wearing our full armor of God. On this channel, I am of the new covenant. I believe that that Christ was the release from the Abrahamic religions, and that is why they are fighting us so hard in decimating Christians across the world, and that is the three-pronged attempt here that is going on with Islam, the synagogue of Satan, Judaism, that is really just these unreligious Jewish overlords that have their minions in all of the corporations and banks, etc. And then you have, of course, the Indian Hindu aspect here that is invading. And as I said before, with the fraud, why not take down the H-1B visa massive fraud? Okay, whether it's the fake college degrees, the fake corporations, there's so many of these businesses with the same exact footprint of fraud and stealing taxpayer dollar money for all of this, whether it's the trucking industry, the placement of people into jobs, industry, all of it fraudulent. Let's get focused there, shall we? That's what needs to happen. And so it is all very interesting. We're seeing here, a few good news things, which I'll bring up now. is we do have some cool things from Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, coming out and saying we want to really revitalize the cotton industry in this country, and basically saying we want to bring back cotton. We want for people to get educated about what it means to wear synthetic um, clothing and how that is a threat to your health. Is so actually really fantastic to see that. I know it's multi-layered in why they do anything, but it's still very real and very true that synthetic clothing is not only very toxic to your body and brain, but it also is, all of that synthetic fiber makes the G's much more powerful in their access to you, and so it is very important to understand when you're dealing with plastics and dealing with um, um, you know, uh, silicon-based things, you want to minimize that in what you wear, and your bedding and everything that you keep around you, as far as being a conduit for what is this cryptobiology capture they're going for. And the cryptobiology capture is really about our cognition. It is about the takeover of our brain waves. Again, Forbidden TV did a great job, uh, which I'll link below, where we had James Martinez come on and be very clear about how intense and how quickly it's coming. This capture of our brains, the brain computer interface situation. He is an original MK Ultra um, person calling it out, and he's basically come out again on Nino's Corner and said he was expecting to go to these MK Ultra hearings, which are basically on hold since Gabbard's gone, and the CIA came and stole the files, and while we're looking at this, he's basically saying that we're at the verge here of a total brain interface, computer interface takeover, where every time we're interacting through these devices, that we now no longer have human interaction is now completely altered forever, unless there's a huge revolution to stop participating and stop connecting and having our discourse be through these devices, that everything's being recorded, everything is being surveilled, but also creating the straw man of us, the electronic digital twin of us, but also affecting us, that we don't interact anymore without electronic devices near us, which is constant surveillance, so that we are consistently and constantly not having normal human, God-given interaction anymore. He talks about how this began with the pager. He talks about way back, it was like in the 80s, and they brought out the pager, and then you had people with their pagers interacting with the pagers. This was the first disruption of normal human contact, right? And we had the phones before that, etc. But he says this brought it into a handheld device that then now has gone on steroids, to where everybody has their phone, and so every time we're interacting, all of it's surveilled, all of it's recorded. And he said that all of the new electronics user agreements have solidified that all of you, everything recorded, everything done is owned by them, that they own your digital twin, and that you will have no rights soon. This will come with the crypto rollout of the 060606 patent and beyond, way beyond what Gates has done, for us as human batteries, to basically the mark and the buy-sell agreement, where only through your devices will you participate in society, but way beyond that, they actually own you as your digital footprint. And he talked about how important it is that every human being, to resist this and to resist, in my words, the mark rollout, is that you have to get with your local government, your county court, and citing covenant law, which I hope to be able to get into. Please link below good information you have about this, where we're talking about, speaking of new covenant, that we're talking about covenant law in the United States, that in your county courts, you can do a full rebuttal of any previous agreements, electronic agreements you have made by using these devices. And that also you can not just that you need to write and sign an agreement, a testimony that you do not consent. You are revoking your consent to there being control or ownership over your human self, okay, as a citizen, as an American, and of course across the world where this is happening. And very important, I will link it below. He's basically saying that he is of the opinion that there is going to be a new republic of the United States, sort of Wano Savan kind of a category here of that there is going to be a new pronouncement that the dead captured United States corporation is done for, bankrupt, over, and they are presenting a new republic, and that at this time is the time you must opt out. And he says that it's our neurocognitive rights, and of course that is it, that our neurocognitive rights must be included in the new iteration of the Constitution, that it must be built upon to include neurocognitive rights, our God-given minds, and that the fight for the mind is the largest war that we're in. It is the Cartel Babylon war at the end of the day, brought out through the deception, violence, trauma, Stockholm syndrome, suicidal empathy becoming the end game here, that now there's a mass awakening to, that everybody is catching on, waking up, praise God, thank God, that we are, and that it is becoming now a time, it's a fight against time here. And that's of course being captured too. And that's why I have the Shiva, dancing Shiva with CERN. And, a couple months ago, they were moving neutrinos around and cold storage trucks. These are what creates antimatter. This is, the creation of the black holes. They just made CERN 3 times larger. These large hadron colliders that have mass implications for the control of the human mind, but also space-time, and of course also hugely important for quantum computing. According to James Martinez, he's saying there's really only 2 functional quantum computers in the world. I believe he said in the USA and China. And of course, this is the massive sort of locus, huge spider of what is the digital matrix control system. If you watch that series called Paradise on Hulu, you get this scene at the end of the second season where they were all in bunkers, and they'd been it gets revealed that there is an actual quantum computer named Alex that's running everything, and is the second bunker, okay, that is the actual mind and brain, the digital mind and brain behind the survival of how the first bunker underground city replication of life on the surface was replicated. And that is the plan for the entire planet. Okay, that's why they're collapsing the ozone, stealing the oxygen, stealing our electrons. It is the silicon, of course, takeover. And very interesting when we look at Peter Thiel moving to Argentina with his whole family. Okay, and we've had this whole very interesting situation with Milei. I think it's Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. Him ending up with the same name as Netanyahu's original name. It's Milishovsky or something. Well, we saw the burning down of massive amounts of Argentine wilderness recently, and in the last year. And then it turns out that there's enormous amounts of Israelis buying up that land, and it was sort of course, a war weapon land takeover, and that there's a huge movement of Israelis to Argentina. But one of the strange things here, when we look at what is supposedly the magnetosphere collapse, that's also supposed to be, Argentina is supposedly one of those places where this massive magnetosphere collapse is supposed to occur. So I'm not sure what the entire plan there is, but I'm sure we'll be finding out more as we go along. And so I mentioned cotton. Okay. There is also the news that Brooke Rollins is putting out as Secretary of Agriculture that they're building a massive ammonia plant and a massive phosphate plant in the United States. That this is all to do with fertilizer and ensuring food security going forward. Of course, we sort of missed a year. It's a little dodgy. I hope you're growing food at home. So, so important this year. To be growing your vegetables and to be, utilizing your skills and hunting and fishing and getting out there and being self-reliant. Self-reliance and local community is is what's going to save us during this time, and it is so, so important to take that up. And I also wanted to mention something incredibly amazing. That is DeSantis in Florida, the governor. Of course, he has come out with property tax reform, which he is envisioning towards the future as a full elimination of property taxes in Florida. But he's coming out saying that to start, that 30% of all property taxes in Florida could disappear. That equals about 60% of all of the homesteaders, the owners of homes on property in Florida that are worth 500,000 and less, to basically to stop property taxes for that population. That's huge. That's huge. He said that property taxes, that would be $32 billion in Florida in property taxes given back to the homeowners to not be paying that. He said the total is 60 billion, and he said that that they could get to that. They could get to that. He says Florida has a $117 billion budget for the last 4 years, and he says that they've eliminated half of the debt in Florida, and that he cited New York as having $250 billion budget with 4 million less people. There's 27 million in Florida. And he said that 1.7 million more Republicans have moved to Florida, and of course, flipping it out of the blue and into the red. And so it's all great, but we know what kind of majority also lives there, and a lot of stuff there. And we also still see this, DeSantis captured energy-wise when it comes to solar and the kind of our energy cartel down there in Florida. But I think very exciting and positive news coming out of that. And so talking a little bit more about the NDAA and this $1.15 trillion budget, we're looking at this Israel merger into our Pentagon. Total treason. Must be, you need to call your senators immediately, your congressmen and women, 202-225-3121 for the Congress, 2777 for, AIPAC Mike Johnson. But basically what we've got here is it includes everything: aerial, manned, and ground platforms, all integrated. This has to do with laws, with lethal autonomous weapons, lethal autonomous drones, all the integration of electronics with Israeli systems. We're looking at, this includes biowarfare, biological testing, all of this really, really, the platforms that you have, people like Larry Ellison with this Stargate program that they're launching to capture all of our biological data. And of course, Israel already did that with their population. All of this happening, it's so, so important to understand. And when we go back to like the Indian population, again, with the invasion of Indians into this country and all across Christian Europe, you see in the United States, in 1965, there were only 13,000 Indians, right, in the United States. And look where we are at now. And so it's very important to understand how pervasive this is and why we must be so active. And of course, again, with Islam and Sharia law and et cetera. We saw in Fort Worth today, I haven't been able to follow up to see what came out of this, but Fort Worth, Texas, there was, of course, they're trying to oust this awful Sharia law principal of this school at Western Hills High School in Fort Worth. It's called ISD, and this is Shema Al-Zubi, who is a pro-Sharia law, Black Lives Matter supporter, defund the police person, um, who they had elected to principal and then was removed pending this investigation of all of her posts and agenda. And they had a huge a turnout, I believe, today of at this parents coming to protest her, any possibility of her coming back. And the way you can find out about this and other, Islam across the country, invasion into our schools, into our local governments, is you want to check out RARE. So we have CARE, right? That was outlawed and supposedly terrorist organization, yet don't see tons and tons of prosecution there. But basically RARE is the American Fight Back. RAIR, rarefoundation.com. Check them out if you want to see what's going on in your area, how you can get involved, etc. And we're also seeing, of course, this news about this release by Google, as if they are Gavi or the Gates Foundation, which basically it also is because it's also funded by Gates. But this is where we're seeing this authorization they're seeking, again, a reason to call your Congress and Senate, to release these 32 million mosquitoes that are infected with bacteria, to supposedly kill the mosquitoes. They do this every few years, but then we end up with more and more vectors spreading everything from, Zika to all kinds of viruses that come through the mosquitoes. But we also know that, what has Bill Gates claimed, that mosquitoes are flying vaccines, and they're injecting whatever it is that's in these bioweaponized mosquitoes. And they plan to do this, of course, right before the 4th of July, right there in early July, citing definitely Florida and California, but also possibly Texas and beyond. And so we're going to keep watching that, as we see that in Kenya, they're doing quarantines facilities for Ebola, and we're seeing thousands of people protesting over this, basically claiming they're making us sick. The Ebola thing is a fraud, and so we'll keep watching that as we go along. And that might be where I leave it for today. There's always so much more to say, but that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I'm so glad I was able to be with you today, and just kind of, put it together as a spectrum to understand that, the neurocognitive, the bioweaponry, the way it's all being streamlined together, and the power concentration, and how Israel has been at the forefront of all of these things and at the head of so many of the corporations and banks that control this country. And with this alliance, you can call it the red-green Marxist alliance. I might put the glasses back on for a second. I want to describe one more thing, but the red-green Marxist and Islam alliance, but then there's the blue part of it, right? And then you could throw in whatever color you want for the Hindu alliance. The former colony of Britain, putting in hugely this push for the Indian invasion of the West, and for the corporate and merchant class, and of course then the Muslim hordes for taking over the schools and taking over local governments and mayorships, and then of course the Maoist Marxist in cahoots with all of them to create the socialist communist agenda and the full destruction of what they hope of the constitutional republic. But what we see here, I thought it was very interesting. This was with Bannon, who was interviewing author Herman, who just came out with a new book called Founders Fire, and he wrote the Patriots History of the United States way back like 20 plus years ago, massive bestseller, multiple editions. But he's just coming out with a book called Founders Fire. American history, the revolution, 1776 to the era of Trump. And basically this founder's fire is what we need so hard right now. And it's not just the founders, it's that we catch that fire of 1776, that we have it here at 250 coming up on July 4th, that the Paxton win, okay, that was pure Americana, Americans claiming that victory over $150 million, and a bunch of it, Larry Ellison, at least 90 million, that came out of the RNC, all of this to defeat Paxton, who now supposedly they're getting behind, right? Yeah, right. Well, basically what we see here is that fire is what we need, and it's what Tina Peters was talking about today, minutes after her release. We need to fight in a flood, in a massive, wildfire of patriot, constitutional American activity here, for the midterms. It has to happen, whether it is Precinct Project USA, .org, whatever organization you get in that can put you in a position to do the best, right? We're seeing Mike Lindell fighting after the delegate conference there up in Duluth, Minnesota, and Royce White running for Senate, them just bulwarks for freedom and for election integrity, totally dissed by the RNC. We need to say, we don't care. We don't care about your money. We are going to vote it in such floods in this founders, fire, that you're not going to be able to defeat it. And it's about making yourself visible. And it is about less, when it comes to doing election stuff, and you need to use the electronics and, coordinate, et cetera, great. But don't waste your time, certainly not on Netflix or anything else. Don't waste your time watching endless videos. Get involved locally immediately. One thing that Arthur Herman did say during this interview with Bannon today is he was talking about Pol Pot, out of Cambodia and the killing fields, right, and the mass genocide in Cambodia. And he said, who Mamdani really, reminds me of? He said, Pol Pot. Pol Pot came out of the Paris salons, out of the cafes, super educated. And I just want to remind people that when Barack Obama went to Colombia, his father, at the same time as Obama gets brought in, his CIA father also brought in Mamdani's father into Colombia, same time, right? And now it's Mamdani's turn. And so he basically just said, Pol Pot comes in and it's just, oh yeah, we need equality. We need to, we need to have the state-run food. We need to take the land. We need to take the properties. We need to redistribute the wealth, and then it becomes, of course, the killing fields and the mass slaughter. And we've seen this through also what we had with this interesting combination of just the threats against MAGA recently, where you had the that stooge Paul Krugman, right, coming out, the socialist Marxist Paul Krugman basically saying, we need a demagnification of America, full bore. We need to compare them to the Nazis, and we need to rid the USA of the current Nazis, which is the MAGA Americans. And this is beyond race, even though there is a coordinated effort to decimate and destroy the white race. This is about all Americans who, as the Marxists coming up to 250 on MSM are saying, this is about slavery. We can't be comfortable with America 250, and just the disgustingness, the racism of that as Black Americans 100% don't agree with that. Not 100%, but you know what I'm saying. That Black America is like, stop it already. We want you out. We want you out. And that this redistribution of wealth, says Paul Krugman. Again, this same, ADL connected Krugman to get, I just got to take a picture, mention ADL. you know, which was started by B'nai B'rith, you know, in the 20s, right when the Muslim Brotherhood was also started, and it's just happens to be a man named Frank, right, who raped the Catholic girl and blamed it on the black guy, right? All of that. And so, anywho's what's, you know, Muslim Brotherhood, this all gets into the Bank Street elite coming out of the city of London, you know, Rothschild massively pulling the purse strings here at the same time as the creation of the plan for the state of Israel and the creation of the Muslim Brotherhood through the Egypt Lodge, trained by the communist parties at the time, right? And so it's all the interconnected. It's like if you combine Paul Krugman with his demagnification plan to basically commit genocide on Americans, with, you know, Jonathan Pollard, who was the one who stole the American technology to sell to Russia, who got out of jail recently and has been calling for massive uh, uh, you know, genocide on Gaza, Iran, regime change, you know, total annihilation. You know, scotch tape those two together, and that's kind of the future that the Greater Israel Project is after in our Pentagon merger, which must be immediately. I mean, this is cause for mass protest. This, if nothing, if there's nothing else yet, whether it's the invasion plan that was executed under the Marxist Biden auto pen money laundering regime, destruction of America, or you know, whatever. This is the big one, and it must be stopped. So we will leave that there for now. Okay, we're seeing them going after USAID. We're seeing different organizations like Movement for Quality Government out of Israel refusing to answer their queries about if they were funding Islamist propaganda or theist organizations. There's just all of this going on. It is a maelstrom, okay, of incredible activity while this fight, this America 250 fight, is underway. And so I just want to urge you to pray and take up God's armor. And the number one, the first one, is the belt of truth. Okay, the belt of truth. The number one weapon of Satan is, of course, deception. And from there comes violence and terrorism. And so deception is number one. So the belt of truth and the armor of God was number one for a reason, because without it, you can't put all of the armor together. Right? There's the girding of the loins. There is that core power of truth. And second comes the breastplate of righteousness, which you have through your knowledge and connection, deep connection with God. Okay, that truth is actualized through your dedication and faith, and clear that they're trying to interrupt, right, with the Internet of Bodies, with the brain computer interface. They're trying to constantly interrupt our conversation with God, which we often give away willingly. So much of that time we could be having that conversation by these devices. So those two things are where it starts. And we'll go on from there, talk more about the armor of God, why it's so vital. You can't take up the sword, which is the word, right? And just think literacy, freedom, Western civilization, what it meant for the common person to be able to read the Bible through literacy, what it meant to actually gain wisdom, okay, through literacy. You can't take up the word, right, till later, the sword. But first you need the truth, and then you need the righteousness that comes through your telic center, your connection to God. So decalcify that pineal gland and your hypothalamus, take your iodine, and do everything you can to fight this nanosensor invasion in your body. And we'll talk more about it next time. So thanks so much for watching. If you found something valuable or helpful in this video and you'd like to support the channel, would so appreciate it. Keeps it going. Shoestring here. So ways to do so below. And I so appreciate you. And thanks, of course, to C60 Evo. Congratulations to Krista and Juliet. C60evo.com/YFTV. Everything we can do to fight radiation right now is so massive and so huge. That is how we decouple from the nanosensors and from the constant assault against us with the Gs, the Bluetooth, the geoengineering, and the harp array systems. And this is one way, which I love, and people use it hugely for the big C, the alternative clinics, by the caseloads, for central nervous system ailments and degenerative diseases. Huge help in that department. MS, et cetera, I can't really say, but it is bought up hugely for those reasons. And it is the destruction of our central nervous system and the capture of it in our peripheral nervous system, our skin, right? It is that under the skin is where they're trying to get. This is a great barrier and a great massive mitochondrial cleaner that takes the garbage out with your glutathione, melatonin, flushing it out of the body. Just really amazing, especially part of a larger protocol where if you're really going full bore to fight this evil, we all need to do right now. And I certainly am. So thanks so much for watching. You are free. I'll see you tomorrow.